right, here we go. It is podcasting time. And we got Glenn Power joining us from PowerWorks Automotive, which means we are talking cars and tires and stuff.
Yeah,
the typical.
Lots going on.
The typical. There's lots going on, and you know what's going on in the shop, and the list goes on and on and on. So that's where we're going.
About the garage, do we?
Well, it's always nice. People like to know what's going on in the garage.
Well, you see, I don't mind what's going on in the garage. It's just that the last few weeks, me and DJ have been trying to sort of, the old bull by the horns phrase. And couldn't record last week because we sort of looked at each other while we were going through the worksheet, and we were like, we have got nobody that can do that job. And
that's a problem, isn't it? When you've got a garage and you've got what, 4 lifts, 5 lifts, you've got cars on the ground, you got people who are bringing stuff in a sense, you got your bread and butter, oil changes, tires, and that kind of stuff, and then you've got the crazy stuff that walks in the door, and you've got X number of technicians who can do jobs, and then you're looking at some crazy thing that comes in and you're realizing, I'm the guy who's got to do this job.
Yeah. I mean, look, the whole idea with PowerWorks originally was that me and DJ were going to do the bread and butter stuff, the things that the attention to detail really matters on. Yeah. So, from owning the Wranglers, if you take your Wrangler for a service, okay, when you take it for the sort of regular oil change at the petrol station, you physically see them change the oil. Yeah. But most people don't actually see that. So when you take your car and the Wrangler doesn't have a service light on it, so how do you know it's been serviced?
Right.
You pay money and get a piece of paper as an invoice, otherwise you have no idea. Right? There's nothing. Yeah. So the idea was that me and DJ would take the service work, we would do the service work, make sure the inspection was therefore done properly to the standard that we were trained to, make sure that the service was done and nothing was missed, and that anything extra or required as part of the regular maintenance was explained to the customer directly.
Yeah, yeah. So, as it should be.
Videos, pictures on the job at the time, and get instant approvals or answer questions instantly that the customer might have. That was the idea. Now, obviously, thankfully, in some regards, we got well supported from the start, and we just got overwhelmed. And then there was absolutely no possible way that we could do that. Now we've settled down a little bit. We've got a good team in place. We've had such a high staff turnover.
Which is another problem, isn't it? We had COVID, and that caused people to reassess their living. Yeah. And you just get people who decide, look, I don't want to work here anymore, or I don't want to work in this trade. I mean, in your case, you get people who just leave the trade.
I had a conversation with a really, really good parts guy who was going to come and work for us. He was from India, and he literally, paraphrasing a little bit, but he said to me, well, in my home, there's a big pharmaceutical plant, and I can get 3 times what I'm getting here there because they're making masks and consumable equipment for healthcare because of the whole COVID thing.
Right.
So he went back to his hometown to earn 3 times more money. Like,
it's a no-brainer.
Of course he did. Yeah. So a lot of skill that had been here for a long time that was, more importantly than qualified, experienced, left. So we've turned over quite a lot of staff to get to where we've gotten to, but now that's allowed us now to sort of take a step back, see how things are going. Yeah. And now I'm back onto dirty fingernails again, and it's, good. So we've had a few situations where, that car's got to go today, the parts have come a day late. The customer's a pilot, we've not been able to get hold of him. There's 18 hours worth of work on it, we've got 10 hours to do it. Oh, man. We've got nobody to do it, we're going to have to do it. It was a Q5, we knew what we were doing, we were going to get it done. We managed to get it done, we got it done quickly, but those sort of things completely throw the rest of the day off. Because when I go back to my phone, and there's 30 odd WhatsApp conversations with a message that I haven't read in there. Yeah. By the time you're down to the 5th reply, the first person's replied again. So it's real difficult to manage sometimes. But extra spanner in the works has been the fact that finally, after about 2 years, managed to finish my S6
Okay.
So that's like on the road.
Nice. Is it here today? Is it in the parking lot?
No.
No, okay.
We'll get to that. So the S6 has 3 heat exchangers.
Of course it does.
2 for engine, 1 for the transmission.
Yeah. So explain what a heat exchanger is, because except for Joey Woo Woo, there's probably half a dozen
it kind
people
of does
listening.
what it says it does. It exchanges heat, so you get heat from oil and heat.
Okay.
That heat from the oil is transferred into the into the coolant, sorry, and then taken away and goes to the radiator.
Yeah. Cools everything down.
Now the one for the transmission. So this is the Lamborghini one. This is the 5.2 V10. So everything's a little bit extra.
Of course.
The one for the transmission is 5,000 dirhams.
No.
Not available. So
can you refurb it? Is it an easy?
No. So it's not even like connected with pipes. It's bolted on to a flange basically on the side of the engine.
So you need the
So
specific
it has to be
piece.
there. So what we did was we looped the coolant out of it, and then we just accepted that, well, if there is an internal leak, as long as that's blocked off, that's fine. We'll just loop the oil to go in and then back out and back through it again.
Yeah.
That's okay, but it's starting to get warm now.
Uh-oh.
And I'd sort of forgotten about it with everything that's been going on. Then yesterday, gearbox overheats, I've got no drive. So it's like, no, we're in a problem here. So I've got to put an air-cooled, I'm not spending that much money on it.
You're not going to spend $5,000?
No, because I haven't got it.
Yeah.
I haven't got 5,000 anything.
Yeah.
So
which is part. We'll get back to that, but which is part of the dilemma that most people have when the oil change. You can do that, the basic stuff. But if something big goes, which is
expect,
you're done for.
Yeah. Well, I'm done for big time.
Yeah.
So the solution at the moment is I bought an air-cooled oil cooler. So you'll probably have one on the front of the Wrangler. I can't remember, but most
you know what?
had the extra oil cooler put on.
I
those
do have.
transmissions overheated.
Yeah, I do have one.
So I managed to buy one of those, 200 dirhams.
Okay, nice.
Nowhere to put it because there's no space in the engine bay. There's no space under the engine. There's no anywhere.
So where did you put it?
So we're just routing like some hoses and we've had to fabricate brackets, and then now I've got to run a switch for a fan because I can't get the airflow because I can't put it anywhere where there's airflow.
Just like Joey Woo used to have on his powder blue Rabbit. Yes. He had a little switch. Yeah.
But the bumper doesn't come off because the brackets were broke, so that's screwed on and then painted over the top till I can find a new bumper.
Oh no.
So that's been a real...
So this vehicle is a labor of love, is what you're telling me.
Look, at the end of the day, 100%, if I'd have stayed in the UK, I'd have never been in a position, nor would I probably have had the inclination to have bought one.
Right.
It's a 5.2 litre V10, 2007. It's just not something I would have bought, right?
Yeah,
but in 15 years' time, it might be worth something.
Right.
Because they ain't making cars like that anymore.
Yeah. And at least you have the ability to tinker around with it in your operation.
It's mine and DJ's wheelhouse, so to speak, and we know what we're doing with it. It's just a matter of finding the time to do it. And then you get somewhere, you think you've done it. The blower motor was going, and then if you put it on 7, it wouldn't squeak, but it'd go. So that's a pain of a job as well. So that took like 3 hours.
Oh,
and you just lose track of the day and you get stuck. But it's just February was a busy month, and March has continued in that vein. And obviously we've got Ramadan coming here.
Oh yeah, it's all kicking in.
So the next time we're into a new month, it's going to be Ramadan, which limits our hours. Customers are always understanding of that and appreciative of the laws and respecting the culture and the traditions and everything else that go with it. But it does add just another layer of complexity to a job that's already complicated enough. So just little things at the minute that we're trying to do, attention to details of just basically, we've written it on the wall, like literally written on the wall, attention to detail on every ramp, because things like, so me and DJ got back on the service train, so we're doing the services and we're doing them together and we're doing them really quickly and we're doing them efficiently. Making the most of the training we've been lucky enough to have, I guess, is the way to look at it. But opening the bonnet and taking a picture of the engine bay before you touch anything. Getting to the back of the car. Most cars now have, even if they're functional or not, and that's another thing that annoys me, but they have tailpipes, chrome or black tailpipes. Taking a picture of the back of the car. And then when we're doing the service, cleaning the engine bay
Yeah.
and trying to explain to our technicians why we do that, and just getting looked at as though
That's someone
we're
else's
from
job.
another planet.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?
Why do I clean that?
It's an engine bay, it's going to get dirty. Yeah, but that's not the point.
Yeah.
You do your job properly, you clean up after yourself, and it needs to be cleaner than when you first went there.
Yeah.
Cleaning somebody's tail, nobody cleans tailpipes. You take your car to a car wash every week, your tailpipes will get black from carbon deposits. Just polishing them up.
Yeah.
It doesn't take long,
No.
30 seconds each one, and it's done. I sent you a video of doing a golf one because I was like, you know, this is just how it is, and the guy's just looking at you as though.
But you know, when the person picks up that vehicle, first thing they do, they take a quick walk around, they notice, oh, actually, they open up the
There's
hood.
little differences that they might not even
They notice something. They just
something.
Yeah, they don't realize what it is until they notice it after a while. It's like, oh.
So one of the technicians so me and DJ work on round number 1, of course we do. One of the technicians that was working on round number 2 came across to me and said, I was working on a car, and he said, it was a 3.2 single head V6 VW EOS.
Okay.
And he said it was in for slow starting. Now on those vehicles they have.
What do you mean slow starting? It was just
really slow, as though the battery's dying.
Okay.
Now those vehicles have 2 6-volt batteries connected to make a 12-volt circuit because
of course they do.
Because there's nowhere to put battery. There's no space in the boot.
So where do they put them?
So there's 2 small spiral AGM 6-volt batteries right up against the back bulkhead where the back seats are.
Of course.
Now, just to make things a bit more fun, a bit more spicy, in the event of an accident, because of where they are, there's a pyrotechnic connector on the cable. So if the vehicle rolls, it blows the circuit, so there's no electrical.
And they go flying out of the top like an ejection seat?
It'd be good if they did. It'd be much better if they did, but no, it just breaks the circuit. It's basically just if it rolls over, it breaks the circuit.
That's a good idea.
So I'm always very sensitive about technicians looking at them because they weren't trained like I was on that specific vehicle. So I can say to them, okay, so first thing was the batteries are no good, sir. I'm afraid to say, I think you've tested them wrong, but let's go and see. They tested them as 12-volt batteries because of course they have, right? Yeah. When have they ever done 6-volt? It's not 1940.
Yeah.
So I showed them, I explained it. Okay, go through, look, they're both fine. This will be the starter motor. And normally on that engine, the thermostat housing leaks, and it leaks on top of the starter motor.
Oh no, like what kind of design is that?
It's the same, Porsche have the same issue with a water pipe from the pump. The starter motor's at the top of the engine on the back, and it runs down.
That's just crazy.
So many cars have the same issue. Nissans.
Yeah.
Just the way it is. So, yes, sir, I think it's leaking water. And I said, well, actually, I know it isn't. Because the coolant level's okay, and we've already pressure tested this car.
Yeah.
Well, I can see the coolant residue. And I then said to him, look, I know the lady whose car it is. We've looked after this car for years. That repair was carried out last time. What's happened is the technician that's done the repair hasn't cleaned after himself. And in this case, it's probably, had I not been there, created an issue then for the customer. Because what would have potentially happened is I wouldn't have been there to see that. The technician would have said there's a leak mark. It's leaked onto the starter motor, so we need to repair the starter motor and we need to fix the thermostat housing. They'd have put the report through.
That's a lot of money.
The foreman would have priced it up. The service advisor would have said to the customer, you need to change your thermostat housing. The thermostat housing is leaking onto the starter motor. And the customer would have said, let me just flick through my invoices here. Hang on a minute. You changed that last time. Yeah. So why are you charging me again? Yeah. Then the customer's not happy.
Exactly.
Because we didn't clean up after ourselves. And if we'd have done the job properly and cleaned up, we wouldn't have ever. Now, fortunately, I was there. Yeah. And potentially, at one step, the foreman or the service advisor, it might have been caught there and said, no, go back and check because we've already done it. But these things, that is literally a problem that arose because nobody cleaned up after themselves. There was no attention to detail. And we're not, me and DJ aren't in the business of rushing technicians to get their job done quickly. We pressure the technicians to do the job properly. There's never a time constraint.
So you're paying by the hour, not by the job?
Well, basically, we're paying on quality.
Okay.
The customer's only going to pay us on quality, and we will only, that's all we want to do. So we're not going to rush a job. If we think a job's going to take us 5 hours, and we're going to charge 5 hours, we're going to tell the customer it should be a 5-hour job. As you can clearly see from your estimate, there's a 5-hour charge on there. But we may have a bolt break, or there may be a part that comes wrong, or there might be an issue with the ramp. There could be power cut. There could be anything that could go wrong. So please plan for the whole day without the car.
Yeah.
For these reasons. But simple things like cleaning up after yourself make a massive difference. So it isn't always just about cleaning the engine bay to make it look nice. It's setting a standard and giving a habit. I've done this job, I'm going to clean it.
Yeah.
Fix that oil leak, I'm going to clean it. And these are very important details that sometimes get lost in the whole, just the rat race of just quick, get this car in, get this car out, and it's the wrong way to do it.
Interesting. I mean, I think it's an interesting point, because so many times you've got different garages in different parts of the world operating differently. You've got people who are being paid by the job, and so a 5-hour job, if I can get the job done in 3 hours, I'm going to make X, Y, Z more. Or people getting paid by the hour, which changes again the way they're doing things, and it's just becomes an interesting phenomenon with the repair and what people do. And I just want my car fixed well.
Yeah.
And like the person who's fixing it, like it's their own. That's all I want.
Some people will base their garage choice, like anything else, supermarket, restaurant, anything. They'll base that on financial value.
Sure.
They'll say, okay, that's physically more expensive to do than the other place, so I'll use the other place. Now, some people will still use a financial, economical view, but they'll say, well, how much is my time worth to take it back if they do it wrong?
Well, so there's another side to it, though. There's the financial bit, and then you juxtapose the financial. Do you like the people and trust the people?
Well, obviously, we've spoke about that, haven't we?
So I don't mind going the cheaper route, but I better like the people who are doing it cheaper. And if it's just cheaper for someone I don't like, there's a whole relationship being built in the garage. And if that relationship is sour, and look, I used to go to a different garage than PowerWorks, and I really liked the garage, and I liked Sam. So Sam was fixing my vehicle, and then Sam went back to the dealer. Yeah. And they said, hey, you're not coming back anymore. It's like, look, I don't like you guys, but I really liked Sam. I went because of Sam.
And we've said before, we said in the old radio days, if you have a garage that you trust the people, then stick with them, never change.
And so suddenly, I'm going to stay, but it's going to be another group of people. I said, well, at that point, now I'm going to come over to you because I like you guys. And not only am I getting good value, but I like the people, and I can have a conversation with the people, and it's not just getting my car fixed.
Yeah, there's a value associated with the quality that some people, because it's not physically written down in a number, it's hard to justify and quantify as well. So we would rather not be the most expensive, but also not be the cheapest, and actually charge what we think is fair for the level of quality that is received. Now, that's not to say we don't make mistakes, because of course we do. Yeah. Everybody does. Nobody's infallible to that. And the motor trade is a great example of, sometimes there is some trial and error, because sometimes you see something that you're scratching your head at because you've never seen it before. Yeah. I've been in a situation in the UK where I've been 2 days into a job, chasing my tail on the car, cannot for the life of me find the issue. Yeah. And then the other master tech comes over, and then 45 minutes later we fixed it because he had a fresh pair of eyes, and he looked at it and said, hang on, what have you done? Okay, I've this and this. Oh, okay. And I'd clearly just in visualizing a step-by-step process, missed something out. Yeah. Simple, missed something out. And actually would have had it fixed in the first day if I'd have relaxed. But you sometimes rush, and we're charging customers. We can only sell today's hours today. Right. If I don't sell them today, I can't sell them tomorrow. Yeah. But if there's a set of brake pads on the shelf, I can sell them today or tomorrow. It makes no difference. They're not going anywhere. But the hours for today have disappeared. But we're basically utilising, in terms of how many hours we sell in a day, we're utilising 30% of our time, because we don't always charge enough time, because things go wrong on cars which we can't account for, and it's not our fault, but nor is it the customer's fault. So we have to maintain that fairness. But at the same time, it might take me 40 minutes to get a car in the garage, because I've got to move others and finish them off first, and the water goes off. deal gets cut because there's a leakage on it all the time in our queues, right? The French bakery place turn their ovens on and the power gets cut. These things happen all the time. And we get situations where we might be lifting all 5 ramps, taking 5 cars up at the same time.
You blow everything there.
And you get a draw on the current and it trips everything out. So there's things that you can't account for. You're never going to be 100%, but we can only sell today's time today. And technicians are on a fixed salary for the month. So from their point of view, what we need to do, we can't incentivize them with any kind of bonus, because what we don't want to do is make it, okay, well, if 7 guys work really hard to achieve bonus and 1 guy potentially doesn't, then is it fair that that guy gets the bonus?
Yeah.
And likewise, if you do an individual bonus scheme, well, people are only going to want to do certain jobs. Nobody's going to want to do a diagnosis, because that could take you all day and you're not potentially at the end of it. You get 20 during repair out of it.
Right, yeah.
So then you get selective and people not wanting to do certain work. I mean, I've been there, right? 20 years in. I understand it. But you have a customer that has been given a price that we've then got to stick to, because they don't want to turn up and be 25, 30% more.
Right.
5 or 10%, it's an estimate at the end of the day is fine, but they don't want to be another 1,000 dirhams on top of the bill. So we've got a price that we've already fixed. We've got a technician that's earning a set amount of money, and everything else in between that is literally paper thin. There's no margin for error on it. And what we have to do is incentivize the guys on quality and explain to them, look, you will be reviewed on the quality of your work, and if your work is to a good enough standard, I don't care if you repair 100 or 1 cars every month, if you have a quality on delivery above 90%, then we'll give you an increment on your salary. But it has to make sense, because there's no good rushing work out to get the money in to then redo it all again next month.
Yeah, and that's going to happen.
It does. So it's been fun. It's been fun getting back onto it, and the Audis sidetracked me a little bit, but it drives nice when it's driving.
Yeah, there you go. It drives nice when it's driving. That's the word on an old car.
Yeah.
It drives nice when it's driving. Hey, I got an interesting one, because I came across a link talking about Teslas, and it could be talking about any car, but it's talking about a Tesla, and it's talking about this Tesla that was delivered, quality control issues, with different tires on the front and back. Yeah, it shouldn't have been. And that was part of the issue, that hey, this probably shouldn't have happened. And they, and although there are times when you do put different tires on, but it got me thinking about a couple of cars that I've seen recently, and different tires. I've actually seen a couple of cars recently where it looks like they've had a blowout or something, and they've maybe got the spare on, and they're running 3 tires, and they're running a 4th that's different.
Yeah.
And that can never be good if they're doing it long term. And these vehicles look like it looked like they've been doing this for a while. And part of the giveaway was the tread wear. And so 2 things are happening. One, why you want to have at least 2 matching tires on each side, but preferably 4 matching tires with the same qualities for the road and the same size of tires, unless your vehicle's sold like that. But the second side is tire wear, and what tire wear tells you about what's going on with your suspension. So let's start off with why you want to have the same size of tires.
Basically, you want to try and maintain the rolling radius equal around all 4 corners.
Right, there we go.
So that you don't have a situation where, so if you take a wheel that was 15 inches and you put a tire on there of a certain size, if you put the same size tire on the next side at 15 inches, then the rolling radius is the same. The circumference of the tire, the distance that it's going to roll to do 1 revolution is the same. So if you then change the size of the tire, what will be affected then is the rolling radius, the circumference of the tire. So one wheel is moving faster than the other wheel to do the same distance. Now with differentials and transmissions, that's allowed because it needs to when you're going around a corner.
Right.
One track of the corner is shorter than the other track of the corner, but they go at the same time. So one's gone faster than the other. That's what differential means. Now, eventually though, it will wind up the differential or the transmission because it's constantly going. There's too much load on one side and it will damage the internals of that. So if you have the wrong size tyres, in particular left to right, you'll have a problem with driveline somewhere along the line. Now, on modern cars, you would normally get a, let's say, prompt that there's something wrong by you'll have an ABS fault, or you'll have a traction control fault. Sometimes you'll feel the brake pedal vibrating even when you're not pressing the brake, and it's because it thinks that the brakes are locking because one side's moving faster than the other. And the only computable answer for that for the brake control system is that, well, the brakes are locking up. Or the traction control will think, well, one of the wheels are slipping because it's moving faster than the other one. It doesn't know the tyres are different sizes. Now, on some vehicles, especially off-road and 4x4 and pickups and stuff, you can calibrate the brake and transmission and everything else, even the speedo, for various different size tyres. So an F-150 is an example. There's, I think, 18. There's 18 different sizes that you can.
That's extraordinary.
That you can pick through.
Yeah.
Tell the computer that's the tyres it got, and then it'll say, okay, and then it knows what speeds to expect for the ABS wheel speed sensors. Once you've done that, you shouldn't have a problem changing the size, but still left to right should be the same. Now, front to rear is a different conversation because some vehicles are rear wheel drive, so they'll have wider rear tyres. Some vehicles like the RS3s, Audis, will be what we call staggered, where the front tyre is wider than the rear. And there's friction circles and everything else to consider when these things are designed by engineers. But left to right, the rolling radius is always going to be the same. There'll be a slight variation potentially front to rear. Slight variation potentially. We're not talking, rocket drag cars where there's pinwheels on the front and massive oil barrel drum width tyres on the back. That doesn't happen. But there's always as close as can be front to rear as well. But it's not as critical as left to right. And what you'll find is Wrangler's a great example. People will buy 4 nice, massive,
BF Goodrich, knobby
huge
things.
wheels and tyres.
Coopers, get some Coopers. I see a lot of
35
Coopers.
inches top to bottom, yeah? But they don't change the spare.
Yeah.
Then you get a flat. You put the spare on, it doesn't even touch the floor. Or worse, it does and you drive on it, and then you have a problem with your transmission.
Yeah.
So this is a common issue with people that have off-road cars but don't put
You
a spare.
need to buy the 5th wheel.
Yeah, and most of the time, the Wrangler is the example that we're using because it bolts to the back.
Yeah.
You can fit a bigger one on.
Yeah, of course.
But cars such as...
You just don't want to spend the extra money. I'm guilty of that.
No, exactly. But cars such as Land Rovers, where the spare wheel's either inside or underneath,
Oh, you're done for.
and they don't fit a bigger wheel and tyre combo.
Yeah.
Now, the fact that they're already quite big means that these do have a problem because the spare will probably still fit on and the car will drive. You'll have all sorts of issues with your transmission, your brakes, traction control.
Yeah.
So it's a real critical importance that your tyres are the right size. Yeah. Massive, massive issue. And
here's an interesting one. Okay, so I've got same size tires, but I've decided for whatever reason I need to replace one, and I go for the same size but a different tread pattern. Does that really matter?
Sometimes you'll notice something with the wheel, with the steering. Left to right, again, if you get a tyre that is brand new, the tread depth will be 8 millimeters. So including the top and the bottom, the whole radius of the tyre will be 1.6 centimeters bigger than the tyre that was worn out completely. Most tyres will go down to 2 millimeters here because it doesn't rain very often. Let's say 3 millimeters. You're then talking about a centimetre difference in your rolling radius left to right.
Yeah, you're going to feel that eventually.
And that will be noticeable. That will be picked up and you'll potentially get the ABS or traction control errors that we've just mentioned. So always try and change, if one fails on the left front, try and change the right front at the same time. Likewise on the rear. Different tread patterns, it happens daily. It's happening now in hundreds of tyre shops around the country. It's happening right now as we speak. Somebody's got a Michelin on the front and they can't get the same tyre in, so they're putting a Continental on the other side. This happens because there's sometimes no option. Tyres are, after all, invariably a distressed purchase unless somebody's modifying the car. Somebody's broken down with a flat tire, or they've had a blowout, or they failed the RTA test, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Fair enough. They're just getting one done because they want to keep it cheap. But there's more to it than just a sale. It's safe for you. It's more important for your safety on the road, but it's also very important for the safety of the vehicle in terms of what it's causing otherwise.
When I see wear on the inside of the tread or on the outside of the tread, what do each of those wear patterns tell you going on with my suspension?
Basically, if it's just the tread that's wearing in and going bald, then usually
Just on the inside, let's say the inside.
Yeah, usually it's the toe.
Okay.
So usually if you imagine stood up, feet shoulder width apart, and you look down at your toes and they're pointing straight on, if you turn your toes out or turn your toes in, effectively the tires on the front of your car are angled
so
such a way. So if they're too far out or too far in, the tires will wear on one of the sides more than the other.
So you probably need an alignment or something.
Yeah.
Or one of your arms is going.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing to do is get this. So this is something else as well. So because we're inundated with tyre shops here, and most of them will offer alignment because they have to.
Right.
They have to do that to justify the warranty on their tyres. Now, on a wheel alignment, the first thing that should be checked is tyre pressure, then ride height, and then there should be some basic measurements taken across the track of the vehicle and the wheelbase of the vehicle to make sure it's all straight. Then you should check the condition of the suspension components, in particular the ones that are going to be adjusted, but that's not exclusive of any others. Then you check the steering components. Then you do your initial measurement, and then you start to do your adjustment.
Okay.
What tends to happen here is tyres on, put it on the machine, put the heads on for the sensing of the angles, turn the wheel left and right. It's green or red. If it's red, change it to green and drive the car off the ramp. And it's a bit like the conversation we've just been having about how people have got more value on their time than the quality of their work.
Yeah.
That's no good. It's not helped anybody, because the machine says it's green doesn't mean the car's going to drive like that. The pressures probably weren't set right. The car wasn't loaded as it should have been. It's probably got no fuel in it. It might have a boot full of luggage. It might not.
Yeah, okay.
There's no one sat in the driver's seat.
Yeah. The list goes on.
So you've got to make sure that a wheel alignment's done properly. And a lot of people just adjust toe to get it to drive straight, but it feels like it's driving straight to the driver because the wheel's in the straight position and the car tracks in a straight line. Yeah. But it's actually not, and something's been overcompensated to allow that for that to happen, and it's usually toe.
There we go. Okay. Easy. Nice.
Yeah. There's loads of other different ways on tyres. You get a lot of information from how a tyre's wearing. There are, I mean, I'm sure we've all been past usually a taxi just because of the amount of kilometres they do. You drive down the road and you'll see
taxis and police cars.
Yeah, but you'll see a taxi, you'll see the back wheel just bouncing up and down on the road because the dampers are failing.
I see a bunch of cars like that today.
And you'll just get flat spots all the way around the tyre. And then when they're driving at a slower speed...
But they must feel that, right? If you're in that cab?
I've been in taxis and told the driver, something wrong with your dampers, you need to get them sorted. You know, these tyres are noisy, this needs looking at. You're going to be off the road. Go and take it to your depot and get them to do it. Yeah. But, you know, that's...
Yeah, they're looking, I got to get more on my meter.
Yeah. So it's a difficult one, but unfortunately, as we stand at the moment, there is a massive rush for autonomous driving. Right. But there isn't a massive rush for autonomous vehicle health. So there's nobody working on anything to tell the driver your tyres are no good, mate. And I'm not going to let you start the car other than to drive you to a tyre shop. Yeah. You can start the car one more time, and if the tyres don't get changed, you're not starting it again. With all the talk about artificial intelligence and all of the processors in our vehicles and all of the methods that are being used to surveil our surrounding, you're right. It would be so easy for an AI system to constantly be learning about our tires and constantly, have the ideal thing and then be able to measure it against that and say, "Oh, hey, you know what? This is starting to go on. This is starting to happen." It would make so much sense. Just the starting of my car, having the AI system. Autonomous driving requires every single car on the road to be autonomous, otherwise it doesn't work. Yeah. It cannot work if everyone's not autonomous. It's not happening. So I don't see how it can happen. You know, we can't even agree on a country's borders at the minute. So how you can make everybody in your country drive an autonomous vehicle?
Yeah.
How much is a Tesla going to be with full autonomy?
Yeah.
They're out of my price range now.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky enough to have a job. There are people out there in 25-year-old Nissans, you know, that can't buy them.
Yeah.
How can that work? So technology and research is good for research's sake sometimes, of course, and carry on with it. It's great, amazing, fantastic. If we make some private floating highways for all these autonomous vehicles, no problem. But surely something on a vehicle that will tell the driver, you have an issue on your car, you need to take it for an inspection, and I will let you start the car 2 more times, but after that you're locked out until it's fixed. So you either take it to get fixed or not. Surely that's more valuable, right? And I'm not computer science. I've got no idea how you would start with it, but it can't be far away.
You would think not. That's a great comment. I think our interest and people's interests in the automotive industry are in just different places. And there's a New York Times article that I threw into our notes, just talking about batteries, and it was just kind of a fun article, but it talking about the research that's going on, and because of the geopolitical context of our world, people are more and more thinking about the R&D that's going into these products, and batteries, because we've gone down this electric route, are a huge issue. And this article is talking about battery research, and as it should be. But it also, I love at the very start, it says the US is already behind Asia in manufacturing electric car batteries. And so now we've got different countries racing to develop these new generation of batteries that are cheaper, can have more energy and charge faster. And just talking about all of the things that are going on with that. And it's, we've got so many distractions that as we're looking forward, we're missing some of the innovation that could happen with what we're doing now in the present.
VW have just agreed and greenlit a €2 billion plan for a new plant in Wolfsburg, specifically for their electronic drivetrain and their new range of electronic vehicles. Now, that's an investment. It is a massive investment in it. And that's all amazing, and I'm sure it'll be fantastic. But what seems to be happening, although it's probably a bad example because VW and Tesla seem to be quite close because of the whole friendship between the two boards, but everybody's going after it for themselves, and leaving everybody else behind.
That's what. Well, and they're going after it, and everyone's doing it a slightly different way. It just sparks of the Betamax VHS wars, if you remember, videotapes and mini discs, and everyone trying to do their own thing. Well, why did VHS win out? Well, because they licensed all the technology, and there was a uniform technology. MP3. Philips came up with the MP3 concept. They built this technology, they licensed it to the world, and away we went. And we had one uniform. Now, is MP3 the best? No, but they licensed it, it became a standard. And this is where ultimately at some point we've got to go with our electric car infrastructure and electric car parts. We need manufacturers to be using the same stuff so that we can get economies of scale, and we can get the pieces talking to each other.
I think there's a genuine situation here where people making these decisions still don't necessarily think internal combustion is dead.
Oh no, there's for sure they're holding on to it because I don't think the change is happening as quickly as people anticipated, and they know that we can still make money out of internal combustion. So we still need to be messing around with it. There's a lot of life left in it.
I mean, it's sad because.
But you know what might speed up the change though is what we have now, the price at the pumps. If I've got to go fill, I filled up the Wrangler the other day, first time ever. I fill up the Wrangler, and my Wrangler's a pretty thirsty thing. I mean, they're not aerodynamic. And then I got the non-aerodynamic square box Wrangler without a roof on. So the amount of drag, I might as well be pulling.
AC on.
Yeah, of course, I keep the AC on to keep my feet cold. So we're just drinking fuel. I get up with the one that's slightly more fuel efficient because it has windows and a roof. I get to the pumps, is 215 dirhams to fill up the tank. Now, look, I know that someone in Europe's going to say, James, you're laughing. That's cheap. Or back in Canada, even in the States, they're going to be saying, you're doing okay at 200 dirhams to fill up a tank. But to put it into context, I used to be able to fill up for under 100 dirhams.
10 years ago, I came here, May 2012, and it was 130 at the pump, a litre. And now what are we,
260, 280? I don't know.
Three something.
I don't know. I haven't looked recently. All I know is it's every petrol station here has the same price. So it's not like you shop at the petrol station you like, but you're going to pay the same price. So you're not going to buy a price. But I literally sat there and looked at my wife and I said, you know what? It's almost time to start thinking about an economy car. And I wasn't joking. I was saying, we got 2 Wranglers. I think we're going to have to, I think really if this keeps up, I don't know what our longevity is, but if it keeps up, we need to get back to what we used to have. 1 4x4, because we would go out in the desert and you want to have something that's got a little bit more room. And the 3-cylinder economy bucket that that would cost me nothing to fill up, nothing to repair. I mean, I told you my Syrian story. Till the day I got rid of it, I'd never changed the brakes. I used to take it to AAA. You probably worked on it. I took it to AAA.
Maybe a little bit before. Yeah, it would have been Rashidia that wouldn't.
Yeah, and I took it to AAA, and I used to say to the mechanic, I said, dude, this is 4 years old, this thing. Can you check the brakes? And the guy looked and said, you still got life on the brakes. I go, it's 4 years old. And he goes, you mustn't use your brakes a lot. I said, and all that said to me with the Daihatsu was this car the brakes were perfect for the weight. They're perfect for decent.
Was it manual?
No.
Oh, it's even better. Even better.
Yeah.
Great effort.
So when we sold it, we finally got rid of it because a great opportunity to trade up to a Wrangler. It had never had the brakes done. It had other stuff done. Never had the brakes. Never had the brakes.
Yeah. I mean, there is a bit of a shift here, or there was a bit of a shift here. You'd notice more smaller cars on the road than when I first came. I remember first coming here and being like, why is everybody driving a massive car?
I'm looking out the window right now, and there's a lot of small cars on the road.
Yeah. But with the whole global trend of SUVs, small isn't as small as it used to be.
No, Toyota Corolla's a big car now.
Yeah.
It's like, you're going to get something small. You really got
even the Golfs and Polos.
Yeah, they're big.
They're big.
The Yaris. I was looking at a Yaris yesterday, a Yaris sedan, and it was a newer one. I didn't even know they're still making Yarises. And I'm going, that's a pretty big vehicle. Like it's no longer
you get people in the back, no problem.
Yeah. It's not a throwaway anymore. Wow, this has moved up in the world.
Yeah, everything's getting a lot bigger there. But I mean, to the point of the batteries, it's
batteries and fuel. At this point, you need batteries, and this might be the provoking people to move electric, but fuel-wise, provoking people to go to smaller vehicles, or provoking people to move to a part of the city, wherever they live, where they're closer to where they work. And they say, it's going to cost me more to live in the city. Yeah, it's going to cost you more. But now you're getting rid of your transportation costs. You're getting rid of your parking costs. You're getting rid of your repair costs. You're getting rid of your fuel costs. Now you're saving a bunch of money.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to be done outside of just the kind of car you use in terms of city planning.
Yeah.
And also working from home.
Yeah.
So traffic in the morning and traffic in the evening, I will go from doing 20 to the gallon in the Touareg to 30 to the gallon just because the kids are off school.
Yeah.
And my kids don't weigh 50 stone each.
It's the roundabouts, it's the lights, it's the
less
stop.
traffic.
Yeah.
And that's a 50% improvement.
Yeah.
20 to the gallon to 30 to the gallon on a drive to work.
Yeah.
Because there's no school traffic.
Yeah. Different
Crazy.
driving habits. Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah.
And that is genuinely, I mean, we used to walk to school as kids.
Yep. So I was there. I never got to drive. I always wanted to get a drive.
Rain or snow.
Yep.
Even better walking in the rain than when it's not raining, because you get 10 minutes to sit on the radiator when you get to school. You don't have to go to morning assembly. Great. But we can't do that. We're 30 kilometres away from any school. So where we can afford to live and all that stuff. But you can't
And then you think okay, I could use an economy route and we could put the kids on a bus. Yeah, I
We
can't
can't get to a bus station. The bus doesn't come to us.
get to the bus, and so if public transport, you don't have the buses coming to you. If you go with a school bus, there's a cost again. And when you start adding in, I don't know what it is, 7,000 dirhams a semester to your transport fee, you're looking at 20,000 a year on top of your school fees. And well, it's not affordable anymore.
Yeah. It's a genuine. I was quite positive about the whole shift to people working from home, but we've spoken in the past about education, and there's a lot to get from education through a screen over the internet, especially in impoverished places. But where it can be in person, it should be.
Yeah, there's that whole socializing side of it, and because I teach online and I teach in person, and I much prefer teaching in person, and there's a social contract in person, whereas when it's online, if you're teaching online and you're teaching in real time, the contract's broken.
Exactly.
And I'm not getting the investment from the recipients and getting them doing their part, and it's somehow it's like a TV show. So it's like, well, I'm just watching this. I'm not engaging with it. Yeah, there's no investment. There's no engagement.
Yeah.
Whereas when they're in front of you, you can stop and say, what do you think? Get online, go and look at things. And
but also you can read that person.
Right, I can see and I can walk around and
Your eyes are glazed over.
Exactly.
You notice that. But all of this is all pertinent to fuel economy.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, but it is. And there's a lot more trouble in the world that can be resolved. And things like this are just down to planning, and it's very, very hard to understand it. In the UK, where we have state education, there's no fee unless you want to pay for your kid to go to Hogwarts or whatever. There's no fee for school, so you have a school in your village, you go to it.
Yeah.
You have a school in your town, you go to it. Just how it is, because the standard's pretty much going to be the same.
Yeah.
Wherever you live. It's not. There is a bit of a postcode lottery, but not too much. But you go there, and because of that, everything kind of works a little bit more smoothly in the morning. The roads are easier when the kids are off school, because there's still kids on buses and there's still kids in cars. Their parents take them. But in a city like we live in Dubai, it makes a huge difference to the way fuel's consumed. And I think genuinely at 3 dirhams a litre with fuel now, there will be you've got to be asking yourself a question. If you can get an electric vehicle, well, I suppose that's if you can get one. They're expensive. They can't but get them anyway.
Electricity's not free, so a lot of these places, even now when there's a subsidy on charging, you still have to pay. And how is your electricity being generated? And that electricity in some parts of the world, it can be very, very costly. So having an electric car suddenly is not affordable anymore.
I know it is a difficult. It's a conundrum that there isn't ever really going to be a solution to. I can't see that it would make sense.
It comes down to different types, and this was that article, full circle back to the battery article, saying, you've got the big companies that were making batteries and that they're the tried and true, but we're now back in the Wild West. We've got a lot of innovation happening and looking at the chemical compositions of batteries. Can we change the chemicals so that they're self-generating?
Yeah.
And all sorts of different ways of doing it. And as soon as we start doing that, well, we got a whole other situation. Of course, we create more problems because we've got disposal issues and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of thinking going on. And as you said, there's a lot of possibilities of change.
Yeah, it's a good time to be in the trade.
We didn't get to, and we're going to get to this next, we're going to talk lights and vehicle lighting. And it's interesting because I was behind a brand new Touareg. And I was really disappointed in the rear lighting. So I really liked the rear lighting because it was bright. When they put on the brake lights, it was like blinding.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was, I just wanted a little bit more show with the lights. It's kind of weird, right, to want that. But the reason I bring up lighting is we've talked about lighting, and it's like tires. It's something that we just forget about. And there was a recall in the US with
the GMC one.
With the GMC, because... And we're talking not just 1 or 2 vehicles, we're talking a serious number of vehicles recalled because of the lights being too bright. So we're going to talk about lighting next time. Sony and Honda teaming up. I think that's kind of cool. So it's going to be a rock and roll vehicle. And Deadpool's going to be in there. No,
Yeah.
I don't think Deadpool's on Sony. So
No,
little Ryan Reynolds giving you directions.
no, you don't want that. Definitely not.
I did see something the other day. Do we know how old Arnold Schwarzenegger is? Got nothing to do with cars. You know how old Schwarzenegger is? Can you Google it? You on Google there?
Let's have a
Okay,
quick
so
look.
the reason I bring this up, and this is just on close, we got to go, is it circles back to keeping your car running, getting it repaired. He was how old?
74.
74. So he was looking 74 then.
His face is kind of melting a little bit
Yeah.
now, right?
And he still works out every day as he needs to. And someone said to him, you know, Arnold, do you still work? I'm not going to do my Arnold impersonation because it's bad. And he looked at him and said, of course I work out every day. He said, do you eat breakfast? Yeah. Do you eat breakfast every day? Yeah. Well, I work out every day. Do you skip breakfast once in a while? Yeah. So do I. I skip working out once in a while. But otherwise, I work out every day, as we all should. And you know, we need to regularly get our car serviced. That's the link here.
That's it.
You eat, you drink water, you drink coffee. Sometimes you change up the coffee. You still follow a
Car needs
pattern.
a service, come to Powerworks.
Come to Powerworks. It's that simple.